This is Eric Young from his room in Huntington, once again reading one of his stories in the past. I'm the program director at Sweetbriar Nature Center, and I've had little chance to share my love of nature with people lately, except through YouTube and Facebook. So I'm going to read the story that I wrote in the mid 80s when I was at graduate school in Illinois. And here we go. It's called A Falling Leaf by yours truly. I've taken many sojourns into the natural world and experienced many of its wonders. However, there is one thing that has avoided my detection. I have never been able to catch sight of a leaf from the moment it drops from a branch or twig to the moment it settles on the earth below. So one fall afternoon, I decided to go out and try to remedy the situation. It was a cold and windy November day just before Thanksgiving. I was in northern Illinois in a state park on the Rock River. The park was a haven, a pocket of woodland away from the surrounding farmland, a place where people could temporarily escape the rigors of modern life. There was a layer of snow on the ground, maybe 2 to 3 inches. The snow was fresh from the night before. It was the powdery kind, the kind you cannot make snowballs out of, although I tried, and they just fell apart in my hands as they began their trip through the air. I walked along through the quiet of the forest. Trees were all around me, partly cloaked in white, with only a few brown leaves left to sway precariously in the wind. I looked down at my sneaker-clad feet to reassure myself that they were there. It was an awfully cold day. My toes were numb, and the numbness was working its way to my ankles. As I explored my feet and the accompanying ground where they rested, I noticed a line of hoof prints stretching out in front of me. There were lots of deer on the property, but it was rare to ever see one. There before my feet, an adventure waited. I decided to track this deer. Now, I am no expert tracker, but these tracks seemed fairly fresh, so I started out further into the woods after this deer. The soft snow masked the sound of my footsteps as I began my pursuit. Soon the line crossed another set of tracks, and another, and before I knew it, there were tracks going in all directions. I didn't know which way my deer had gone, so I threw up my arms in frustration and sat against a nearby tree. It was then that I returned to the task at hand. I scanned the trees in the area to try and locate a dangling leaf to watch. There were so few leaves, it would be easy to find one that was ready to begin its journey to the ground. So I zeroed in on one leaf on a small maple tree directly in front of me. It couldn't hold out much longer, especially on this windy day. The leaf was barely attached to a lower branch not more than 20 steps away. I stared at it intently and watched it dance in the wind. At times it would make acrobatic spins on the branch like a gymnast, but it would not fall. I knew it wouldn't be long. It was a marvelous thing to behold, as the leaves and branches around it joined in the dance, putting in a ballet for all who could see. Many leaves gave up their battle and fluttered and flipped and floated on their way to the ground, but I was too busy concentrating on my leaf to catch their fall at the vital moment. It was then that I saw it. Standing as still as the trunk of a tree was a doe. She stood staring at me with her big black eyes. As she stared at me, I stared back at her, neither of us wanting to budge. I was entranced by her beauty. She wanted to see what I was and what I would do. She was tense and ready to run at the first wrong move on my part. It must have kept up like this for 15 minutes, but it did not matter. She began to forage for food beneath the snow, using her hooves to kick away the snow. As she moved, I wondered how I had seen her in the first place, her brown hide blending into the background as if she was part of the trees. Had it not been for the snow, I would have missed her completely. I slowly stood up, then began to step slowly forward. But not slow enough. My foot caused a slight crunching sound. The doe's head shot up, and her black eyes stared at me, daring me to take another step. Something inside of me wanted to get close to the wildness and the beauty of this animal so I could share in it. I took another step. She immediately turned and bolted in one perfect movement. I watched her frantic but graceful dash to safety with awe. Finally, all I could see was her white tail disappear over a small hill. I just felt great. Then I remembered why I was here in the first place. I turned to look at the leaf. I looked carefully to make sure I had the correct tree. I knew it by its shape and location, but the leaf was gone. It had fallen while I had watched the doe. I went over to the tree and looked beneath the branch that held it. There was the brown leaf sitting on the ground. I picked it up and decided to keep it to help me remember this day. I was too wet from sitting on the snow to find another falling leaf today. However, there would be other days. So I stashed my leaf in my coat pocket and headed out of the woods to the sound of a woodpecker drumming on a tree in the distance. I felt thoroughly happy from my meeting with the deer. To this day, I still have not seen a leaf from the moment it falls from a branch or twig to the moment it settles on the ground. Thank you for listening, and I hope as this pandemic continues and very hopefully slows down and we can get back to some kind of normality, you'll visit Sweetbriar Nature Center in Smithtown, New York, and visit its over 70 animals. We are a wildlife rehabilitation center, and at this point, we're kind of struggling to keep our animals cared for and fed. So if you think about it, go to our website at sweetbriarnc.org, go to the homepage to the bottom, there's a donate button. Everyone be safe and well, and I hope I see you in the outdoors enjoying its beauty someday soon.